Hello, everybody. Hi, YouTube. Welcome back. It is my honor and privilege to introduce my guest this evening. This is Liz Crokin. This woman really needs no introduction at this point. She is a pioneer, a shield maiden, as I like to call her, and she has just been blazing battlefield, total warrior woman. And she's been a lead investigative journalist on the Pedogate scandal. But she spent many, many years doing all kinds of other journalism work for mainstream media, which is what really sets Liz apart from everybody else, is that she's seen both sides of the journalism coin. So Liz, please let everybody know a little bit about how you switched from the mainstream journalism over to this, and let people know where they can find you and a little bit about your work.
Sure. So I've worked in the mainstream media for over 20 years. I'm 39 and I started when I was, I think 17. I got my first internship at the local Chicago Fox affiliate. And I've worked so many different places. I've worked for newspapers like the Chicago Tribune and the New York Observer. I've covered entertainment. I've covered politics. I've interned in the White House. I've also worked in politics. I've worked on 2 presidential campaigns. And I wrote a novel. And my work, I basically was paid to fly around the world to cover very high profile people, whether it be someone running for president or, an A-list celebrity like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And I did that for a very long period of time. And I broke a lot of front page stories and a lot of highly litigious stories. And I say that because the stories I broke were very litigious, but I've never been sued on a story. And I've never actually been legally challenged or even received a letter on a story that I've covered. I've never even had denials. I did a really explosive story on Hillary Clinton on how her campaign was illegally overcharging her poorest donors. They were doing this crazy bank fraud scheme, and we tried to get a statement. This was when I was with the New York Observer. In 2016, we tried to get a statement from them, got no statement from them, that they never even denied it. So, and I say this isn't me trying to toot my own horn, but I say this because I'm constantly attacked by the mainstream media. They call me names, they call me conspiracy theorist, they call me a nut, but I've never been wrong on a story. I've never published a story that wasn't accurate. So who's the conspiracy theorist here? Who's the nut here? I tell the truth. And what had me flip from working in the mainstream media to going independent was, first of all, in 2016, I got back into hard news and I started covering the election. And I basically started to do that because I had worked in the media for so long, and at this point in time, I wasn't working full-time in the media, and that's a whole other story, but I got really sick, and I was a victim of a sexual assault, which is why I'm very passionate about sex crimes, and I'm very passionate about helping sex crime victims. I had to take a break. In 2016, I got back into journalism, and the main reason why I got back into journalism is because I could see how people in the media, including people I know, were just blatantly lying about President Trump. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. I had known President Trump for years. I had covered President Trump for years. I knew his family. I had done, one-on-one interviews with Ivanka. I didn't know them super well to the point where I'm, at their house for dinner. But, as a journalist who's covered him, and I covered him while he was doing The Apprentice, I knew him for years, and I knew he was a good person, and I just couldn't believe how people were just attacking him and spreading lies about him and vilifying him. It was driving me insane. Mm-hmm. So I felt that an obligation as someone who became a journalist to tell the truth, to get back into media and to talk about, and start covering the election and exposing, the truth as to what was really going on. So I did stories about Trump and the election and Hillary Clinton and whatnot. And what changed the course of my life was when the Podesta emails came out.
Me too.
So, I was covering the election and I was telling the truth about Trump, and, I was openly pro-Trump, and I was exposing a lot of Clinton corruption. And I've been exposing Clinton corruption since I was in college. I did a whole kind of thesis on the Clintons and all their corruption. This was when I was actually a freshman in college, which would have been 97. So I've been like exposing the Clintons' corruption, and man, oh man, they had a lot of corruption then, and now it's like so much. But I'm exposing their corruption for a very long time. But what changed the course of my life was the Podesta emails. I knew that pedophilia existed, and I knew that child sex trafficking existed. I had no idea how bad it was. I had no idea how widespread it was. I had no idea how rampant it was. And I had no idea that child sex traffickers and pedophiles have basically infiltrated Hollywood, Washington, D.C., our government, and the people at the top, the media, any big business. They've literally infiltrated everything. And these people are involved in the rape, torture, and sacrificing of children and the trafficking of children. And it wasn't until I read the Podesta emails that like it just changed the course of my life. To me, you know, when I started researching the Podesta emails, it was so clear as day, obvious that these people are pedophiles and that these people are using pedophile code words to talk about child sex trafficking. To this day, no one can explain why they're using pedophile code words. No one can explain any of that. You know, there's hundreds of emails that are questionable. You know, so blatantly obvious to me. And then I noticed the entire mainstream media was covering it up. And I knew that the media was corrupt. I just had no idea how corrupt it was. And at that point, I realized that, sorry, my dog's like going crazy. Is there a way we could pause it for a second?
Sure, no problem. Absolutely. All right, picking right up where we left off, Liz Crokin here. So I want to kind of redirect us here just for a second because it is just a high intensity week. I think Q gave us silence for about 20 days, and his first big drop took place on Wednesday, I believe it was. Was it just yesterday or was it Tuesday? Either way, it was this big breaking of silence, and everybody's just really excited about it. Lots and lots of interesting theories being floated around. I would love to get your take on this one very interesting theory. It personally gets me very, very excited because I understand the ramifications of it would be extreme. And that is, of course, the theory that QAnon is actually John F. Kennedy Jr.
My favorite.
It's exciting. It's an exciting one.
This is my favorite fantasy. And
it's a fantasy. It's okay. Got it.
You know what? I like text. I have all my like, you know, QAnon like friends that I like message with all day. And do you remember when President Trump said, he said it a bunch of times, but do you remember how he has said on several occasions, like, we're going to win. There's going to be so much winning going on. You're going to say, President Trump, I'm sick of winning. I can't handle the winning.
Right.
And every time he says it, you know, I'm always like, I'll never be sick of winning. And I'll write on his Instagram page, not sick of winning yet. I actually think, I have goosebumps, the pedophiles all need to be taken down. They all need to be arrested. We'll never get sick of that kind of winning. But if it turns out that John is alive, that might be too much for me to handle. That much.
People would seriously just spontaneously combust.
Seriously.
Yeah. And that's why I think, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's a wonderful fantasy to indulge in. I love the possibilities. I really do. And we know that if that was the case, people would just absolutely see. I mean, if they could hear, wasn't he just a Democratic darling? Everybody loved him. There's not a red-blooded American woman alive that doesn't think he's just a total babe. And for him to come back and, you know, give his perspective of what really happened all these years and what's really been happening, I mean, it would just be wonderful. But fantasy is a fantasy, right?
Well, let's talk about, so let's just kind of go over that whole theory.
Yeah.
Because I've been following it really closely. So I tweeted this theory months ago. I think it was in April. All right. And number one, when I'm over the target, and this is something that you know yourself because you've dealt with it, that's when I get the most slack, whether it's censorship on social media like you deal with as well. But when I'm really over the target, there's a hit piece about me that's posted on one of these, you know, BS websites almost immediately.
Right.
Now in April, I shared a theory about John being alive and being part of Q. And when I first heard this theory, it just immediately resonated with me. I got goosebumps everywhere. And I'm a very intuitive person, and usually when that happens, that's confirmation that there's truth to it, right? And I felt compelled to tweet it. And I wrote in the tweet something along the lines of, this is an interesting theory. I didn't state as fact that John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive. I didn't state anything as fact. I just said this is interesting. And right after I shared this on Twitter, there was a hit piece written about me, and I'm thinking, that's really crazy. Like, why? That is so bizarre. I just tweeted a theory that wasn't even my own and said this is interesting, and next thing I know, there's a hit piece written about me, like calling me names and saying I'm a nut, literally calling me a nut. And so that within itself made me think, ooh, like there's something to this. So since then, and part of the reason why the theory resonated with me is because Q at one point said, you're not going to believe who you're talking to here. And when Q wrote that, I thought it's going to be someone that's so crazy where, even people that like are woke and know what's going on are going to be like, oh my Lord, this is insane. And so, it being President Trump, well, everybody knows President Trump's a part of it. So that's not shocking. Someone like General Flynn, like that wouldn't be shocking. Seth Rich, now that would be shocking because we all think he's dead. John F. Kennedy Jr., that would be shocking because we all think he's dead. So it has to be someone where we're all like, what the? And okay, so furthermore, when you, as someone who's a writer who's not only written tons of articles, but wrote an entire novel, I study handwriting. And I'm really good at, if one of my good friends has someone steal their phone and they text me, I'll know in one text that it's not them. I'm really good at reading handwriting and understanding handwriting. And what I've always kind of felt with Q's post is that and I believe Q's a group of people and President Trump's part of it, but there's probably one main person who's Q who could be possibly John F. Kennedy Jr. The one thing that always struck me about Q's post is the passion for John F. Kennedy Sr. And when I say passion, I'm talking the passion for JFK Sr. is so intense. I don't see how this passion could come from anyone that A, didn't know him, and B, didn't love him. Mm-hmm. And so you have to think about, well, who could that be? Well, if John F. Kennedy Jr. was still alive, then that would make perfect sense. But the way that Q talks about Senior, JFK Senior in the post, it's with such love and passion. It makes me think it's someone that was close to him, okay? And so to me, well, if JFK Jr. like faked his death and is alive, it would make sense that he was Q. Yeah. Then you take into account the pictures of the guy that kind of resembles JFK Jr. and then the woman who I think, oh my God, totally resembles Carolyn Bessette. Yeah. And they're sitting close to each other. They're super mysterious. You can tell that they're like partially in disguise. They're sitting behind Trump at a rally. At one point, the guy who could be JFK Jr. is holding up a sign with a van. Those white vans are used by MS-13 to do their dirty work, their wet works, their hit jobs. Like, was this the van that carried the explosives that were used in the plane that JFK Jr. was supposed to fly to kill him and to blow him up? Like, who knows? Right. But, there's that going. And then what else is there? So then the JFK Jr. guy, what's his name? Vincent Fusca?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He created a Trumpmobile. Like, there's a clip of him where he's talking about he created a van and turned it into a Trumpmobile. And like, you could tell he's kidding. He's being sarcastic because he's like, oh, well, the Pope has the Trumpmobile, so I decided that Trump needs the Trumpmobile. And then he's like, well, it had to be like a specific van from a specific year. He went to like great lengths to find this van. He went to auctions, and it's like, why did it have to be a specific van, like a specific model, a specific make? These people are trying to send us a message. These are all coded messages. And if you understand Q, if you understand Trump, if you understand the communications, they're trying to send messages. And if this man is JFK Jr., the deep state knows. Oh. And that is why they need to attack me for even throwing the idea out there loosely. Mm-hmm. So I believe there's a good chance that he could still be alive. Every time I research his death and, him allegedly at this rally and the posts, I just get like goosebumps all over my body. And I've had so many people tell me the same thing. And that means something. When you're physically reacting that way, that means your spirit, the Holy Spirit, your intuition is telling you there's something to this. You're on to something.
Oh my gosh, Liz, I couldn't agree with you anymore on that, honestly. I mean, that's kind of an angle that I approach all of this with, and we were just talking about it a moment ago, is the spiritual aspect of all of this. Exactly. So this really does transcend, political figures and, all of their, testimonies and bills and all of this very very strategic, logical stuff. There's an entire layer to this that, engages the human beings on a spiritual level where, it's having a different effect on people all across the board. There are some people that would really rather do some crazy, wild things in an effort to avoid facing this very inconvenient truth, which is that child sex trafficking is rampant in this country and internationally as well. And that Donald Trump, big bad Donald Trump, is actually responsible for clearing a lot of this mess out of the way. So I know we have very limited time here, so I did want to mention a few names right quickly here. We have Sarah Ruth Ashcraft, and she is making huge waves all across social media. She has certainly come up with some very strong allegations against none other than the beloved Tom Hanks. And so, I made a video about this the other day, and I mentioned, we really don't have reason not to believe her at this point. Based on a lot of the things that are coming out about him and his affiliations, we know that A-listers have to make the deal. They have to sign the contract. You don't get that kind of fame and money and accolades unless you do some of this nasty stuff. So the allegations, I believe, are he bought the 13-year-old Sarah Ruth from her father, in obviously extreme, sex abuse and all of that stuff. And it appears that, people are like, well, she kind of came out of nowhere and how can we believe her and that sort of thing. But that's where I think the spiritual aspect of this comes into place. People are being, for lack of a better term, activated. So memories, people are remembering things. Survivors of satanic ritual abuse and all kinds of other traumas are now being sort of facilitated spiritually to come out with this sort of thing. And so, that's really important. I mean, I've shared so much outlandish, outrageous, triggering material on Facebook. And the first time I've ever gotten an actual ban was for sharing this Sarah Ruth Ashcraft Tom Hanks meme. And I found that was very indicative of an issue. Another thing also is that I wanted to say that, on the really good side of this, we see kind of this joking around going, this kind of lighthearted attitude from the Trump administration and the rallies and stuff. It exudes a kind of confidence that I think a lot of us can kind of take a deep breath and say, they're joking around. And can you believe that? It's so funny. Probably
today's such a crazy day. Other sirens going. There's like, oh my gosh. And like, I don't know if you've heard of Mark Taylor, not to change the subject, but I'm thinking about Mark Taylor and his prophecies, which all have come to pass. Not all have come to pass, but he predicted Trump's presidency, and a lot of them have been have come true. And this is
really happening.
It is, and he talked about the day Anthony Scalia's funeral. He was talking about, you could hearing the sirens in the background. He said that was confirmation from God that justice is coming for the people that killed him. Yeah. And so it's just interesting we're talking about this stuff, and these sirens keep going by, because it's like I'm getting goosebumps again. I believe justice is coming for these people, and we're seeing it with all these, like you said, all these people like Sarah and Isaac Happy who are speaking out. Their mind control's breaking. Mm-hmm. And that is the Holy Spirit. Like, God is empowering these people. God is empowering these people. God is giving these people courage to come forward and to speak their truth, to wake up the masses.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a really important message. I mean, people, if there's one thing that everybody really hates and everybody can unify on, it's that we all agree that harming a child is the ultimate sin. It's unforgivable. You really can't take it back. Once it's done, it's done. However, moving forward, what we need to strategically be thinking about is ending it. Okay, so then this is why we need to be. I think we need to be sort of lend these people a safe place to come forward with their truths. Some people are in total pain and trauma because of the things that they've witnessed and experienced and participated in. And they feel like they're just drowning when really, if you just, I mean, it's done. Isaac Kappy, I'm so glad you brought him up. Isaac Kappy, I believe he's an actor. He's done all kinds of, really interesting small roles in films. Very,
He's a musician too, I believe.
What's that?
He's a musician too.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a really talented guy. I got to talk to him today. Gave him a huge shout out for the work that he's doing. But he's calling out people like Seth Green, who, I mean, that does not come as any shock to me. And I'm just, I really want people that listen to me and people that follow you as well to understand that this is a team effort. All right, we can't rely on our elected officials or people like yourself. And we can't put it all on everybody else. This is a team effort. This is a collective healing process that we're all going through right now. And it's 100% spiritual warfare. I think this week is extremely climactic because of the eclipse taking place tomorrow. I do predict that there will be a huge 1-2 counterpunch from the deep state moving forward because they are losing so badly. And this is what scared animals do when they're cornered, is they attack. So But as you know, there's safety in numbers. So if everybody were to get in on this, they can't kill us all. They can't kill all of us. They can't red scarf doorknob all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
people, it's so funny because people send me messages, I'm worried about you. Like I got one today and I'm like, no, I was in danger 2 years ago when no one else was covering this. And, like I was much bigger danger 2 years ago. Yes. So many people are coming forward. There's so many people like you that are like, like realizing this is true. They're waking up, they're taking the streets, they're posting on YouTube, they're posting on Twitter. And so there's safety in numbers and in masses. And people always ask, like, what can they do to help? Anyone can open a Twitter account. Anyone can open an Instagram account. Anyone can launch a Facebook page. Anyone can talk to their neighbors. And, if you are worried about your safety or you're worried about your job, I do understand that. I mean, I've lost many jobs for covering it. And that was my choice though. But you know what? I know a lot of people that are doing amazing work and they have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook accounts anonymously. So open an account anonymously so you don't have to worry about your job or whatever. Everyone can do something. There's no excuse. Right. There's no excuse. And at the minimum, pray. And praying is actually one of the most important things you can do because this is a full-blown spiritual warfare. And that's what's kept me safe and alive. And that's what keeps you safe and alive and what keeps us going and keeps President Trump and the people really at the forefront of this safe is the prayers because there's so much power in prayer. And even if you don't believe it, just pray, get down on your knees and
pray. And this is actually something really, really great. And I love it because I know you're a Christian, you're a good Christian woman. And, it's interesting. I love it. I love this actually, because I'm a pagan. So, I believe in many gods. And so, but the thing is though, is that our divine inspiration that we get from this doesn't matter, what you call it. This is all something that we can align on, and that positive energy, that love energy, those instincts to protect our children and ensure our future. That's something that we can share worldwide, internationally. It doesn't matter your race, your creed, your background, your sexual orientation, all of that stuff comes secondary. So Liz, I mean, I know our time crunch here is really tight, and I really, really appreciate you coming on. Moving forward, what do you see taking place within the next, because I know Q's talked about July being a really hot month. We know it's been really, really heated, but July is not over yet. What do you see coming up?
So I firmly believe before November 11th, and November 11th is supposed to be the military parade, I firmly believe the mass arrests are going to happen before then, at least one round. And, I've talked to Mark Taylor about this. And again, Mark Taylor has been spot on. I highly recommend his work, listen to his interviews on YouTube. But, he said to me, like, we were talking about the mass arrest, like when they're going to go down. And at the end of the day, no one really knows. Like only President Trump doesn't even know. Only God knows. And people also have to understand that timelines can change, because the timeline for President Trump to run and to become president was in 2012, and that timeline was pushed back by 4 years. So God's timeline can change. Now, I believe these mass arrests are going to happen very, very soon, and I really do believe that they're going to happen before 11/11. Now, when before 11/11? Man, I hope that they happen on this blood moon day, because
it'd be a perfect time.
And the good guys, the Q team, President Trump, the white hats, what I've noticed from following them so closely is that they love to break big news and to just hit the deep state where it hurts on their occult holidays. And they also take their symbolism and they like to throw it back in their face, which I love, because what these people do is they take their symbolism to make fun of us, to mock God, to mock Jesus Christ, to mock children, to exploit children. And so I love that the white hats take their disgusting symbolism and just shove it back in their faces. And I love it when they do major takedowns on their cult holidays. I would love to see the first round of mass arrests. When I say first round, I'm talking like 10,000 people to happen this Friday. I don't know if it will, but I do believe it's going to happen before November 11th. And if it doesn't happen by the end of this month, I could see it happening in probably September, October. And I do think that and who knows how it'll go down, but we know there's 40,000 sealed indictments. And I think the people at the top, they're going to have to do one big sweep with those people. And so that could be like 10,000 people. And when I say that the people at the top, I'm talking big fish like Hillary Clinton, the Podestas, Barack Obama, like the Eric Schmidts from Google, like Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. Look what's happening with Facebook. Yeah. So those people
yesterday.
First, right. And then their testimony and evidence in regards to their crimes would take down maybe the next wave. And those people at the top are the most dangerous. I strongly believe that these people would all be exposed and be taken down for the past 2 years. It is something that has been ingrained in my DNA. It's ingrained in my soul. God has told me that this is going to happen. And that's part of the reason why I've agreed to do this horrible work, because I knew that, that there would be, I wouldn't be, for the next 6 years of my life sitting here every day, like screaming, this is, these people are hurting our kids, because it's so exhausting to do this work. And it takes so much out of me, but I know that the end is in sight and I can feel it. I think you can feel it energetically. And I do believe that it's going to happen before November 11th. We're just going to wake up one day and they're all going to be arrested and people are going to be like, but we'll know. We'll be smiling. We'll be like, yeah, we've been telling us for years. Yeah. But the normies are going to be like, just like horrified. And we all have to forgive them for calling us names and being mean to us and calling us lunatics and crazy conspiracy theorists, because they're going to need some serious help. And there's going to be people that need therapy too. I mean,
I don't know about you, but the past 2 years, I'm like, oh my God, am I absolutely like crazy? Like, if you're not questioning your sanity with all of this, when you start to realize the truth of things, it's you know what I mean? You can't believe the depth and depravity of it all. You start to think that you're really losing your mind. But
what you have to always remember, and what I always say in interviews is, you're not crazy. And actually, the people calling you crazy, the people that are calling me crazy, they're eating babies.
Yeah.
They're raping babies. Yeah. They're the crazy ones. Don't let them call you crazy. Yeah. They're eating babies. They're freaking drinking blood at spirit cooking dinners. They're raping kids. They're selling kids. They're making rape jokes. They're the crazy ones. They have tried so hard to make it seem like we're the crazy ones. I don't think so.
It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. You're absolutely right. Their time is up. Our time is now. We are going to be dealing with a huge portion of the population. I don't think people are ready to know that people that they know personally, neighbors, teachers, people in the community, they live amongst us. These people that, whether it's been done to them systematically or generationally,
Exactly.
And then there are the, other predators that just, they have no real reason. They were just born that way. We as a community, as a civilization, we're going to have to come together and find a way to rectify this situation, So
Exactly.
it's a long road. I totally hear you. The end is in sight. Thank you so much for wearing your armor and for incarnating this time around. We certainly need you. I'm behind you. You've got others that are next to you for this journey. So hopefully we can do this again soon, Liz. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining the fight. Again, like I felt 2 years ago, I felt like there was like no one else, really out there. There was a few people exposing this, and it's just like, I'm so happy so many people are exposing this, because the masses won't wake up unless a huge amount of people expose this. Where we go one, we go all, don't leave anyone behind. I'm all down for sharing anyone's works, anyone's videos. It's just, we all need to stick together and help each other out. And thank you so much for having me on and supporting me. And, when these big arrests go down, I would love to come back on, and with a freaking bottle of champagne.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh. Talk about a celebration.
Celebrate.
Good time. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.